When there's information and laughs, it's Live Drive.
Your drive time gets better with Lagos Talks. We understand the essence of variety, so with us, you don't get a straitjacket program lineup. We offer you an array of top-notch programs to spice up your experience on your drive from work. From business to politics to comedy to sports, we've got it all on the Live Drive with Kolawole. The conversation never stops on Lagos Talks 91.3. Don't forget, join Kolawole every weekday from 4 to 9 p.m. on the Live Drive and join the conversation only on Lagos Talks 91.3.
Join the conversation on the most relevant issues affecting the workplace, as well as the human resource patterns being positioned to solve them on The Office. Get notifications on available job listings and advice on how to apply from featured experts in the industry every Thursday from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. Lagos Talks 91.3.
Okay, yes, it is Lagos Talks 91.3. Time is 4:31. My name is Kolawole. On a very beautiful February, the first day of the month, actually, just like that, the time is just ticking away. On Thursdays like this on the Live Drive, we get to begin with The Office. We are doing this in collaboration with CIPM, the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. And of course, Lagos Talks 91.3, we love these conversations. So up is a few minutes of conversations that will definitely impact some value into you. You're listening to 91.3 Lagos Talks, and time for The Office. We do this on Thursdays from 4:30 up until 5, and we bring in experts in the personnel management area of workplace activities, and we try to engage them in conversations that really impacted basically. And our guest today isn't someone that has never been here before. Is a familiar face. I think the second time, I believe, that we are having him. And of course, the reason for this is because of the sort of value you tend to get from speaking to people of this caliber. Our guest this evening is Mr. Henry Unuakpor, MCIPM. He presently holds the position of Vice President at the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, with extensive expertise in corporate head HR strategy, policy, and compensation. He has demonstrated his skills through various roles, including his tenure at NLNG, Shipping and Marine Services Limited. In today's presentation, you'll be here to discuss the topic, Walking the Talk in Promoting Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And it's my pleasure. So please help me in making welcome Mr. Henry. Good to have you join us. Good evening to you.
Good evening, and confirm you can hear me clearly.
We can hear you perfectly.
Thanks. And listeners, thanks for having us today.
I think it's the second time we're having a conversation on The Office. So it's, I think for the first time, you're the first person I'm talking to for like 2 times or more. So good to have you again. The last time we had you, or I had the pleasure of speaking with you, it was sometime last year, I believe, perhaps even a year ago. We spoke about workplace culture, I believe.
Yes. Yes.
And it was a fantastic conversation. So here we are again to make a mark, and hopefully we can look back in the future and say, yes, we indeed had another conversation that was impeccable. So yes, thank you once again for being with us. Welcome to The Office once again.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. But again, huge thanks to all of your listeners and all those who get the value that your great station delivers to all of us. We're avid listeners, and thank you so much for all that you do. Thanks a lot.
All right, so let's get started. We have very limited time. We're beginning with this very interesting conversation, walking the talk in promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that will lead us to my first question. Can you quickly provide a brief overview of the importance of a diverse workplace environment, an environment that's got equity as a spice, that's got inclusion in the field of human resources? And what does this mean to a Nigerian-owned and managed organization?
Well, thanks a lot. Our world is evolving quite greatly. At some point when this whole thing started, it was diversity. That was the buzzword many years ago. And then equity joined in. And of course, then inclusion. So it's D and I. But trust me, Kolawole, now there's B. And I'm not going to spend too much time around that, but just to say that there's a lot happening within that space. So now it's not just D and I, it's D and IB. D, of course, diversity, E, equity, I, inclusion. And now there's that need to create a sense of belonging. So that's the B in DEI, B that is being looked at. And that's really how the world is evolving. So when you ensure diversity, equity, inclusion, what are you doing with your organization to give everyone that sense of belonging, that yes, this place, I belong here, I'm comfortable in this place. Just to put that across as a means of really starting. And if I just bed it a bit, okay. I'm looking out my window just now in my office, and just looking out, I see different kinds of cars, actually, all different colors, different make, different engine types. And that again speaks to diversity. And all of them do what they have to do. I'm looking out my window also, I see different kinds of plants and animals and birds and all of that, all providing, that diversity in terms of all that we see. So my point, therefore, in starting is to say diversity is something that nature itself supports. Nature itself supports diversity, and it does make sense. And in supporting diversity by nature, it creates the harmony that we all enjoy today. So that point to put across first. Now, what's the importance of it with respect to human resource practice? I'd like to say that, first of all, the human resource person is really the main driver. The human resource function is the main driver for diversity in every organization. So it really falls to you. I know that there's a huge part of leadership support that this requires, but in terms of who drives it, who's the custodian, who takes charge of that process to ensure it does happen, is a human resource person. I want to start with that. But to bed this further, how important is it to have a diverse workforce in an organization? The first part really is that it creates innovation and ensures creativity, the different sort of thoughts, processes, different people. Imagine an organization that has all males all through, or only females all through, or only, Isoko people all through, as the case may be. So that's the first part. The first part really is that it helps to ensure innovation and creativity. And because of that, it improves employee morale. The fact that people see different kinds of people and that environment supports that, the employees feel more comfortable, because of their different inclinations. If you have a workforce where you say people of this tribe cannot come here, or people of this religion cannot come here, then you're not inclusive, and then the employee morale could be low. The other thing it does help as part of importance, and I'm speaking a bit quickly because of our time, is that when you show that you support diversity in an organization, then you're able to attract top talent. Yes, we know that there's unemployment in a place like Nigeria, but I can also tell you that there are people in Nigeria today who pick and choose what jobs that they will do and not do. Top talents. And if you want to be able to attract top talents, then you want to show that you ensure diversity and inclusion in your organization. So that also then helps with better decision making. When you come into a meeting, the fact that you encourage a diverse environment for speech, people will bring their thoughts, and things that you probably won't have taken note of will be taken note of in the sense of that. Some of us would have read, and I'll just say this quickly as we move on. Some of us would have seen that feature on the 6 thinking hearts, the blue heart, the green heart, the yellow heart, and all that they represent. And that's the different kinds of diverse thinking process. When you have all of that within your work environment, you can be sure that there's better decision making. And finally, legal and ethical compliance. That's another key to this. So just put together, that diversity itself creates the harmony that we look for, ensures creativity within the work environment, attract the best talents, and it helps with better decision making. As the HR person who really, really is at the fulcrum of ensuring this with support from leadership.
Okay, right. Thank you very much. You're listening to 91.3 Lagos Talks, and this is The Office. The Office is proudly brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and Lagos Talks 91.3. Our guest this evening is none other than Henry Unuakpor, his MCIPM, as a matter of fact, and we're talking about walking the talk in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness, so to speak. Okay, so we have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping that we can maximize the time. When I watch or I monitor what happens in foreign climes when it comes to their workplace culture, the way they hire talents, there's this joke about some persons being termed the diversity hire, you know. Maybe it's not so much of a thing here where it's more of a homogeneous population in terms of race, but in other parts of the world where you have a lot of a potpourri of races coming together, like in Canada, like in the UK, people from Southeast Asia coming together. It begs the question, how can you be so sure that, or how can you strike a balance between putting together a team that works and also inculcating the elements of diversity and equity and inclusion and all of these amazing things? How can companies in this day and age inculcate this into their day-to-day operations?
So thanks again. And I think to some extent you sort of broached the question around while we promote diversity and inclusion, is there a likelihood that merit, competency, and co may suffer? I thought I also heard that somewhat in the context of your question. Is that Kolawole?
Yes. Yeah. True.
Yeah. So the truth is, and that is why organizations who follow through this are often clear, they are methodical. Now, where you have situations where you go through your recruitment process, you're looking at diversity and equity and inclusion, and then you have an all-male organization, for instance, and then you want to get females, but you follow through your process and ensure that competence is proven. So you get the best female that is able to also do that job as well as anyone else. But you're just deliberate to ensure that you want to create a diverse work culture. And I'm only using male, female. There are many other aspects of diversity and inclusion, of course, ability and disability and all of that. So typically, merit and competency should not suffer on account of this, because you would have your normal recruitment process. Having gone through that, you have a target for what sort of persons you want to bring in to ensure diversity, and those ones who have proven themselves to be competent and earn that employment by merit, you bring them in. So that's how to go through that, and it doesn't really suffer. So organizations will typically have targets around this to say, by this year, 2028, for instance, I want to have this number of males, this number of females, this number of persons with disability within my workforce, within leadership. So it's then a deliberate process. Sometimes organizations then even do some front-end work. For instance, begin to support schools and organizations and encourage females to go into engineering, as an example, primarily because when you put out an advert there are not enough female engineers. Some organizations will start encouraging that from the secondary schools, from the universities, such that when they now need to recruit, there's a potpourri of persons available. So there's a lot within that, and I dare say that in where it's been done, competency and merit still play a key role in this. Does that help, Olaole?
Yeah, it does. It does. So let's talk about something. I mean, here in Nigeria, we're going to just beam our spotlight on the current situation here. We are seemingly in a transitional period. If I'm not mistaken, there was an act from 2019. It's called the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act. I think it was 2019. So it makes us in a transitional phase where, as according to that document, there was a 5-year period that was provided for companies to transit into places where persons with disability can easily access the buildings and the facilities, so to speak. So, can you speak briefly on this act and how effective do you think this legislation will be in fostering a more inclusive society and workplace generally in Nigeria?
So to start with, thanks, Olaole, that act takes effect this year, as a matter of fact. And that's one of the reasons that CIPM, being an organization that looks after people, human resources of all forms and cadre, that's why CIPM is also in the forefront of this. And so that act itself, with all that it provides for, as we all know, speaks to ensuring that people with disability get access, get employment, and go to organizations as much as the act provides for. And CIPM is in that vanguard to ensure this. How do we make this happen? I dare say there are several approaches to this, and I'll speak very quickly on some of them. Advocacy is very, very important with respect. How many people even know of the existence of the act? And that's why we're here today. And that's why we encourage everyone, just like a radio station is doing today, to support that advocacy and awareness. So that's the first part. Create the advocacy, ensure advocacy rather, create the awareness. Ensure people are aware of it, there's sufficient knowledge around it. That's the first part. It's a hearts and mind thing to start with, just basically ensuring that there's general acceptance of it. It is law already, so it's not something anybody has a choice about. Having done that, the legislation is clear. Some level of enforcement does need to happen, and that becomes a reality. You know, many times we take things for granted, yeah? So just to give you a typical example, a person walks into a public place to use the convenience, and for that person who has no known disability, it's quite easy. But for somebody who's on a wheelchair who is pressed, it can be a disaster because that public organization has no provision for that person to make use of the convenience. And that's the kind of thing that this organization, legislation is looking to address. People with disabilities, for instance, when you come to places where they need to access buildings will need to have the ramps to ensure that they can. Otherwise, it becomes impossible for them to. So with this legislation coming into force, the first part will be advocacy and awareness, but then the next part will be enforcement, which will be necessary for it to happen. And those are the approaches that we see, just making it work. The other part will, of course, be that organizations, a percentage of their workforce have to be with people with disabilities. And that's where, again, CIPM comes in to encourage and push for that.
All right, fantastic. So I'm just going to probe further. I mean, you are a professional in this line of work, so I want to just poke our nose into your business. Can you share examples, maybe perhaps personal examples of initiatives, programs, DEI programs that you've perhaps been involved in or may have been implemented by companies, organizations in Nigeria, and quickly talk about the impact that these things have had overall in organizational culture, quickly in about say 2 minutes.
Okay, so thanks a lot. Let me first of all start by saying that for any D&I B now, okay, but we can stick to D&I for the sake of this program. For any of such programs to work, it really, really has to start with leadership commitment and accountability. I did say from the beginning that the HR person should drive all of that, But if it doesn't have leadership support, then it's going nowhere. And so while speaking to this, I'm just making this appeal to everyone who is listening as a leader in an organization, that for it to work, you need to support it. What sort of examples can I speak to? Quite a few, and I'll say that very quickly. A person who does it, my father used to say while growing up, that if you do not know where you are going, anywhere is that place. If you don't know where you are going, anywhere becomes that place. So one of the first things to do with, which we have done to ensure this, is that we have ensured leadership support. So when I say leadership support, it's not even just with the top level management, it's right from the board. So somebody is going to the board of the organization. We've done that to ensure that there's support for this. And that is by way of a policy. What policy is in place to ensure that it's within the organization? Now, the reason I emphasize this is if you have a policy in place, then whether leadership changes or not, whether the HR person changes or not, that policy becomes the fulcrum, becomes the drive with which and the guide to ensure this. That's one of the things that we have done. One other one quite strongly is in hiring and recruitment, being very, very, very deliberate with looking at the workforce dynamics and the workforce composition. So for us, we've had what we had called the D&I targets. So there's clarity on D&I targets. We know not everything will be achieved within 1 year or 2 or 3 years, but there's clarity as to what we intended to achieve at all times. And all of this is written, documented, and signed off. I'm just speaking to that, signed off. Now, the other thing to speak to very quickly for time's sake is this. While implementing, there's often a review coming back to say, what we agreed to do by this time, have we done it? And that has been most helpful. And so today, because of that, there's a more diverse workforce that really, really produces the best results as much as possible. So those are some. But we also have groups, network of women, network of men, network of different kinds of people within the workforce, and companies support them to drive, their programs and all of that. So those are some of the things and exposures that we've had to do within this context. Okay. It's about leadership support. It's about the policies in place. It's about the specific actions you take to ensure this.
All right. In case you just joined, well, you're a bit late, but not to worry. We still have a few minutes to get some value from our guests this evening. You're listening to The Office. This is 91.3 Lagos Talks. Henry Unuakpor has been with me in the office this evening, and we have been speaking about walking the talk in promoting diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Okay, so I'm just curious, Henry. I'm quite curious because I feel that I mentioned diversity the other time. As an HR organization, from time to time, productivity is key. You have to implement tools and processes to ensuring that the organization remains productive and it's achieving its objectives. Is there some sort of training that HR professionals, organizations and leaders in organizations have to go through to be up to speed with what it takes to manage a diverse workforce? And in cases where you have to caution or defer to the strengths of the people who work in an organization, how do they go about it? So basically, is there a training or some sort of process that needs to be followed through with in order to excel in this implementation, basically?
Absolutely. So there are quite a lot. I dare say that the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria actually does run many of those training programs, but they're also everywhere, to be fair. One of such training is really that ability to recognize bias and to be able to deal with it. Because for some people, we can be resistant to change if those trainings do not happen. So yes, there's a plethora of training programs that are available to help people recognize the value of DE&I. When you run those trainings, you find out that people are able to align with what changes you intend to make, and what structure you intend to put in such organizations. More important is that at the end of the day, we are leading by example, because I want to come a bit to that before our time runs out. It's about, if you want to ensure that you are walking the talk and it's not just talk and no action, then we said earlier that it's important that leadership is role modeling diversity at all times, and that those organizational values are impugned on diversity. Organization is very, very clear. This is what we want to. So there are policies that are written to ensure this, but that everyone then walks the talk by taking sure accountability for this. So in direct answer to your question, yes, those training programs are there. There are many, some structured from organizations like CIPM, but many are also available online, depending on what you want to do. The value that gives is recognizing the essence of a diverse work environment and the value it brings.
So I want to push on another question, and I'm putting myself in the position of a decision maker, possibly the head of, or the group head of a company in terms of human resource management. And I'm dealing with all sort of talents and professionals within the workforce. And I'm dealing with people who are persons with special needs, and they happen to work. That's how diverse I've decided to go in terms of arranging the workforce. In cases where you have to implement or perhaps put in some punitive measures, maybe there's an erring member of staff, somebody was shortcoming in some sort, and then you have to perhaps implement some punitive measures. Do you think emotions come into play? And what will people say syndrome, so to speak? I can't be seen memoing this person so that I don't feel like a nasty person. Do you think there's some sort of emotional interplay when dealing with this whole diversity situation?
Well, thanks. The truth is, we can't rule out emotions from human endeavors. That's the reality of it. But I want to bring that back to D&I itself. And the right in the middle of it is equity. That's a strong word in terms of how we look at this. When organizations are very clear about the essence of their rules, their regulations, and all of that, then to ensure that as part of D&I, equity speaks to the need to be fair, to be transparent, and to be just in the application of your rules as much as possible. That's a key part of it. And it's important that that fairness, equity, and justice is applied. That speaks to the E in D&I. Now, that aside, as you look at the peculiarity of a case, it is not also out of place to bring we are human resources, to bring that humanity or the humaneness, if English can take that, in terms of how you apply consequences. I think that's what you are speaking to. Important to be just and fair, but as you look at each case, there may be need to apply some level of compassion in terms of the empathy that you speak to. No two cases are the same, as the case may be, and that's where you bring value as a human resource person while looking at the need to keep to the rules as much as possible.
All right. Our time is really fast spent. We need to draw the curtains right now. I hope at some point we can have some sort of extended version of the office, because it seems like we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot to unpack from this particular conversation. But Mr. Henry Unuakpor, thank you very much. You want to just do a 20-second statement on why CIPM, what CIPM might be up to for the year 2024, why professionals should jump into the CIPM train quickly in 20 seconds?
Yes, thanks a lot. I think the first part is that within Nigeria, as an example, CIPM is the only body recognized by law as professionalized human resource practice. So if a person is not in CIPM, then it's not a human resource professional, as it were, within Nigeria. And that's the encouragement. But the truth is that it's a wonderful community. It's not about the laws even. It's a wonderful community where we all learn, where we practice, where we support each other. And that's really the pitch I would like to speak to. We have a lot of programs, fantastic trainings, and just becoming a member opens one to a network of persons that we can all, leverage on and to get support. That's why we do that. That's why I have been there for all these years, and many others who have also done the same. We have a flagship program that comes up every year, which is our international conference and exhibition. This year's version will take place in Abuja, and everybody in human resource practice will be there in October. So yes, it's that network, and yes, it's the body recognized by law to do so, and that's it. Thank you so much.
All right, Mr. Henry Unuakpor, MCIPM, the Vice President at the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria. Thank you very much for being here with us once again on The Office. We look forward to having you for the third time. We hope that lightning strikes 3 times. And we know
Thank you so much.
Even. All right.
And thanks, listeners.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that's about it on The Office here on Lagos Talks 91.3. Happens on Thursdays from 4:30 till 5 here, where Lagos Talks. Of course, you should know that The Office is proudly brought to you by CIPM and Lagos Talks 91.3. My name is Kola Wole Falodun. Up next is Zeal with Critical Thinking.
Racing and laughs. It's live drive.
Okay, thank you very much.
Lagos Talks 1.3.